company is Acadia Lead Management Services. I started Acadia, 12 years ago out of my home. I was a small consulting one-person firm, and I did lead qualification for manufacturers. My background is in engineering, and it kind of was well-suited. Originally was born and brought up in New York, and was transplanted to Dayton, Ohio, and my husband took a job here, and I didn't quite know what to do with myself, and I just started getting involved with doing some sales research and lead qualification for manufacturers in the Springfield, Dayton area. It was going to stay small. It was going to be just me. Kids were little. I thought, this is great. I can control this puppy. I turned around 3 years later. I had 6 employees, and I have today 38 consultants that continue to do what I did over 12 years ago. We just do it on a larger scale. We work both internationally and within North and South America to do lead qualification for high-tech companies and manufacturing companies. So it's a bit unique, and when I say to people we do lead qualification, I kind of get a blank stare every once in a while, and then I say we help you fill your sales pipeline, and that kind of resonates with folks. My story, I think, is unique in a way that I'm an accidental business owner. I never envisioned owning a business. I'm an engineer. I understand technical aspects. I love to get into the weeds, or grow, as you guys have mentioned earlier, and solve problems for clients. So I spent a lot of time the first several years in the business putting process together for operations and solutions we could provide to our clients, better reporting mechanisms, better databases, better ways to get to the leads. And as the company was growing, and I was putting so much emphasis on operations and getting that up and running, I failed to realize that I had other parts of the business that I needed to keep control of. Oh, finance, human resources, bookkeeping, hiring, performance reviews, things I had no idea how to manage. So I kind of thumbed through a lot of it, and I got it done. We were small, and I figured it'll be fine. Not that many people, we're all friends, everything will be good. And that's great for a while, but you start to realize that that gets ahead of you pretty rapidly. And generally you realize that when you hit a big bump in the road. My big bump in the road was the realization that we had one very large client. And I woke up one day to realize that large client started to control what was going on in my company without me realizing it. They were directing my employees. They were telling us what we needed to do. They were dictating our day-to-day work. And I realized at that point, I'm not in control of my own business. And it was a frightening moment for me. And I stepped back and I thought, I'm by myself. I'm the only owner in the business. I don't have any partners to turn to. You have your employees and you have your friends, your husband, your network, but those are not the people you're going to go to and say, oh my gosh, I have a big business problem, help me. I didn't quite know what to do, and I had a couple of good colleagues I was speaking with, and they had recommended I get involved with Aileron. And honestly, not being from Dayton, I didn't know that Aileron existed or what Aileron was all about. This was about 4 years ago, and it was about the time that Aileron opened their new facility. And I went to an open house and kind of listened and learned and thought, well, this could be a good place for me, but I'm sure I can't afford it. I mean, my gosh, look at this facility. This is probably way over my head. And much to my surprise, once I sat down with Dan Hackett, realized that the whole function of Aileron was to help small businesses, not to try to choke you on prices, but to help you through and get you on the right road to professional management. So I became engaged, and my first engagement was like jumping into the deep end of the pool. I went to the president's course. What? I walked out after 2 days totally overwhelmed, thinking, oh my Lord, what am I going to do with all of this information? I stepped back and I spoke with my mentor at the time, who was Dan Hackett. I said, Dan, I don't even understand half the terminology you guys were throwing out. I'm just, wow, what is this all about? And he said, just absorb what you can. Let's step through it slowly, and I began to get engaged in the professional management model and take it little pieces at a time. I started to realize that everything is very much intertwined. And once I got one section of the business under control, I could replicate that in other areas of the business as long as I had the right people and accountability and clarity. So I began going to other functions at Aileron and engaging not only with the leadership there, but also colleagues. And I think that was probably one of the biggest assets for me, at least at the beginning, was to be able to share my story with other business owners. I got involved in a president's group there, and we meet on a regular basis, and we sit there and we talk about things that keep us up at night, and the issues we have, and you start to realize you're not the only one, because when you're sitting in that office, some days you really do feel like you're the only one. So that collaborative spirit, not only with the people that work at Aileron, but the people that are there as your friends, your colleagues, your supporters, and the fun we have, it's an amazing environment. So let me back up a little bit. Large client, took a lot of control. Once I started to get some clarity through professional management, and I really call it my clarity guide. Professional management to me is a bit evasive, but it's clarity to me, having clarity for every aspect of the company and every aspect of my business. I realized I had to fire this big client. But if I fired this big client, I'd probably lose my business. They had that much of my revenue. It's like being a supplier of brakes to GM and GM leaves town. But I really had to take that leap. And we put a process in place to do it, and we had clarity and direction on how we were going to phase them out and look for new business and look into different industries. And we phased that in, and it was not easy. It was very difficult. But I never would have had the strength nor the knowledge to be able to do it without the help of Aileron and their leadership and their teaching and instruction, and then the moral support that I got from my colleagues at Aileron. That was the other very critical piece to me. We've come through that about a year ago, so we're really on our new path to professional management. There are still many aspects that I need to integrate into the business, but that clarity that I now have, it's phenomenal. I wouldn't change a thing. Along with it came clarity in my personal life. Again, spending time with the kids. I have one who just went off to college a year ago and took her on a trip when she graduated, realizing I have to step back and I have to have clarity in my personal life as much as I need to have it in my professional life. I see a change in the way my employees are dealing with one another and dealing with me. We have a lot of fun. We work very hard, and because we grew up as a virtual business, a lot of my first employees still work virtually. They coach their kids' soccer teams, and they might have to leave at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But they come back and they work in the evening from home, or they work over the weekends. My mantra is, as long as we are supplying the client with what we promised, do it on your terms. We can move things forward if you want to stop for 3 hours and go coach the kids' soccer teams. I have some folks who work for me that have small children, and when they get off at the bus at 3, they stop at 3, they give them their snack, they get back to work later on. It's a great environment, it's a great culture. It's not for everyone. There are people who come to Acadia and they go, oh, this is a little odd, it's a little too virtual. But for us, it's worked, and the respect that we have for one another, now that we have that clarity, which is so important to every organization. What's your purpose here every day? What's the purpose for us internally, and what's the purpose ultimately for our clients and the people that we deal with every day? It brings so much encouragement to everything that we do on a personal and professional level. And honestly, the first time I walked through the doors of Aileron, I really wasn't sure what was going to come out of it. And now that I'm involved, I'll be involved forever. I have to admit, I have to go back and take the President's course again next month, because the first time, right over my head. But I think this time I'll be better prepared to absorb more of the information. And I do plan on sending our senior management to the senior manager's course, and we also will be getting a board of advisors in place. So I feel as though, compared to these fellows, I'm probably at the very infancy stages of developing my business and putting that DOC model in place, but understanding it and really being able to have lived it this past very difficult, challenging year has made me realize the necessity. And you may be small, you may be large, it doesn't matter. You have to have that management in place no matter how large or small your organization is. It just gives you everything that you need to keep yourself healthy, your organization healthy. Thank you very much for your time today.